The pick-me girl says that she's pregnant and that my husband is the father. So of course I ruined her life. Story time. So me and my husband, who we'll call Steve, have a great marriage. There was only one problem that kept popping up, and that was his best friend, Amy. At the beginning of the relationship, I was like, listen, this isn't okay. Get yourself a male best friend. Not me getting bronzer mixed into my eye cream. But when we first met, Steve told me that Amy had a very serious boyfriend, and that did make me feel a lot better. So after a short while I was dating, he started to bring around Amy to our house more. One day he gets a call from Amy, and I could tell something bad had happened, like just from what he was saying to her. So when he came out of his bedroom, I said to him, like, you know, what's going on? Has something happened? And he told me that Amy's boyfriend had broken up with her, probably because she's in love with Steve, and that he needed to go round as soon as possible. And I was like, well, listen, I was trying to get a good relationship with this girl, so I was like, can I come with you? He said, it's probably best that you don't. And this was so cold. Guys, I waited 4 hours for him to get home from her house. And at this point, I won't lie, I was starting to get really, really annoyed. About 11 at night, I called him and I was like, listen, I'm really tired. I'm going to go to bed. What's the situation? And he replied, hours later, this is going to take a while. What do you mean it's going to take a while? Hasn't she got her own friends? I decided that I was just going to go to sleep. Girlies, you will never guess. You'll never guess. I felt him crawl into bed at about 2:30 in the morning. This man stunk of booze. So over the next few days, Amy keeps calling Steve constantly. And then one night, after expressing how uncomfortable this whole thing was making me, Steve decides to invite Amy round for dinner. Woo! She got to our house. She was like a completely different person. She kept flirting with Steve non-stop, just right in front of me. And she started doing this thing where she would laugh extra hard at his jokes, and she'd be like throwing her hair back. Stop, it's embarrassing. She kept touching his leg, touching his arm. And then when Amy caught on that I was giving Steve looks, she started giving me dirty looks. When she left, I made it very clear that I was mad at them both. He said that he didn't want to reject her advances because he knew that she was going through a tough time and didn't want to make her upset. I'm going to try this foundation. I think it's going to be too light though. The next day I was at work and I get a random text from Amy, and she shows me a picture of a positive pregnancy test. Now, I'm positively sure that's not my Steve. Immediately called Steve because I knew that this girl was batshit crazy and she would do anything to try and break us up at this point. And Steve convinced me, and he was adamant that this baby was not his. He said over and over again that he had never, ever done anything with Amy. So he called her and was like, listen, babes, what is going on here? Remember the night that he went round and he came back into bed smelling of booze? She tried to tell him that that night he'd got really drunk with her and they had ended up sleeping together. So we started to look into like paternity test, and we found out that women can do one in the first trimester. And as soon as we told Amy this piece of information, she was like, well, you know, maybe it might be my ex's baby, I'm not too sure. And I'm not gonna lie, after this, we knew for a fact that it wasn't Steve's baby. So at this point I was like, she's trying to ruin my relationship. She's flirting with my husband in front of me. Now she's trying to say that this baby is his. I lost my mind. So I turned up at her work and I confronted this bitch in front of all of her colleagues, and I gave her the reality check that she needed. And I was like, listen babe, just because you're going through a hard time does not mean that this whole world revolves around you. I was like, stop trying to purposely ruin our relationship because you're selfish. My husband doesn't nor ever will want you as his partner. Steve doesn't love you and he never will. I said everyone knows to hold their nose very tightly when they're around you. I would have continued on for a lot longer, but she got up and started crying. And she looked back to see if anyone was running after her, and not a single one of her co-workers ran after her. They didn't give a shit. So what do you think? Am I in the wrong here?